Scene script. Have you ever considered the critical role logistics play in military operations? Logistics, by definition, refers to the detailed coordination of complex operations involving many people, facilities, and supplies. In the context of military operations, it's the art and science of planning and carrying out the movement and maintenance of forces. In other words, it's the backbone that supports the fighting force. Now, why is logistics so important in military operations? Consider this. A well-organized military force equipped with the deadliest of weapons is only as good as its supply chain. Soldiers need food, water, ammunition, and medical supplies to keep them going. Vehicles, aircraft, and ships need fuel and maintenance. All these requirements and more fall under the umbrella of logistics. The role of logistics in planning and executing military strategies is paramount. It influences the timing, the scale, and even the location of operations. It's the logistic considerations that determine how quickly a force can be mobilized, how long it can sustain operations, and how effectively it can adapt to changing circumstances. Moreover, logistics can make or break a war. A flawlessly executed strategy can crumble if the necessary supplies don't reach the right place at the right time. Conversely, superior logistics can compensate for other shortcomings, enabling a smaller or technologically inferior force to triumph against the odds. In essence, logistics is a force multiplier. It amplifies the effectiveness of a military force, making it possible to project power far from home, sustain operations under adverse conditions, and adapt rapidly to unexpected challenges. In the annals of military history, countless battles have been won or lost on the strength of logistics. A prime example is the Russo-Ukraine War, which we'll be exploring in detail in the following segments. This conflict offers a vivid illustration of how logistics can shape the course of a war, influencing strategy, tactics, and ultimately the outcome. As we delve into the Russo-Ukraine War, we'll see how logistics played a pivotal role. To understand the gravity of logistics, let's examine the Russo-Ukraine War's inception. It's vital to take ourselves back to the year 2014. Much of Eastern Europe was swept up in a whirlwind of geopolitical tension as Russia annexed Crimea, a move that sent shockwaves across the globe. This marked the onset of the Russo-Ukraine War, a conflict that has been shaped and defined by military logistics. The early stages of the war were dominated by swift and aggressive military maneuvers. Russia, with its vast and well-equipped military, made a rapid advance into Ukrainian territory. The Ukrainian forces, though smaller and less well-equipped, mounted a spirited resistance, making full use of their intimate knowledge of the terrain and local support. In this initial phase, logistics played an instrumental role. The Russian forces had to ensure a steady supply of resources across a large and often hostile territory. They needed to maintain lines of communication, transport troops and equipment, and ensure they had enough provisions to sustain their campaign. This was no small feat given the sheer size of the Russian military and the distances they had to cover. On the other hand, the Ukrainian forces had their own logistical challenges. With limited resources and a smaller military infrastructure, they had to be resourceful and strategic in their approach. Their supply chains needed to be efficient and flexible, capable of adapting to the rapidly changing circumstances of the war. In both cases, logistics was the lifeblood of the military operations. It ensured that soldiers had the resources they needed to fight, and it allowed commanders to plan and execute their strategies effectively. As we delve deeper into this conflict, we can see how logistics became a crucial factor in determining the course of the war. The ability to manage and distribute resources effectively, to ensure the smooth functioning of supply chains, and to adapt to changing circumstances became as important as the strategies employed on the battlefield. As the war progressed, the importance of logistics became even more evident. It served as a reminder that in the complex world of military operations, logistics is not merely a supporting function, but a critical component of success. As the Russo-Ukraine War unfolded, logistics moved to the forefront. This conflict, much like any other, was not merely about the strength of arms or the strategy of generals, but also about the efficiency of supply chains and the timely delivery of resources. Let's delve into a few specific instances where logistics played a defining role in the war. The Battle of Debaltseve, for example, was a clear demonstration of how logistics can make or break a campaign. Here, Ukrainian forces, despite their valiant efforts, found themselves encircled due to a lack of logistical support. Their supply lines had been cut off, leaving them without the necessary ammunition, food and medical supplies to sustain the fight. The outcome was a tactical retreat, necessitated by the failure of logistics. Similarly, in the siege of Donetsk airport, the Ukrainian forces initially held strong, withstanding relentless attacks from separatist forces. However, their tenacity was eventually worn down by the sheer weight of logistical challenges. The inability to rotate troops, replenish ammunition, and provide adequate medical support again had a significant impact on the outcome of the battle. On the other hand, the Russian-backed separatist forces demonstrated a strong logistical network. Their ability to rapidly resupply and reinforce their frontline troops, often under the cover of night, gave them a distinct advantage. They were able to maintain a constant pressure on the Ukrainian forces, gradually wearing them down. These examples are not unique to the Russo-Ukraine war. They echo a universal truth in military operations. The side with better logistical support often has the upper hand. Without a robust supply chain to deliver ammunition, food and medical supplies, even the most well-trained and well-equipped force can find itself in a precarious position. In the end, it's not just about who has the bigger guns or the smarter strategies, but also about who can ensure their forces are well supplied and well supported. These instances underline how logistics can shape the course of a war. The Russo-Ukraine war offers valuable lessons about the importance of logistics. When the dust settled and the sounds of conflict faded, the aftermath painted a clear picture of the critical role logistics play in any military operation. The war was marked by extended supply lines, the wear and tear on equipment, and the constant need for fuel, ammunition, and manpower. These challenges were exacerbated by the harsh winter conditions and the vast distances across which the war was fought. The logistical difficulties were not minor hiccups, but significant obstacles that had a profound impact on the war's progression. In the aftermath, it became evident that a more strategic approach to logistics could have potentially altered the war's outcome. The lack of efficient supply routes and the inability to swiftly transport reinforcements and supplies were among the key factors that hindered the operational effectiveness of the forces. Imagine, for instance, a scenario where logistics were given precedence from the onset. With a comprehensive logistical plan in place, the forces could have ensured a steady flow of supplies, maintained operational readiness of equipment, and swiftly transported reinforcements. This could have not only sustained the momentum of the offensive, but also mitigated the vulnerabilities exposed by the stretched supply lines. The Russo-Ukraine war also underscores the need for adaptability in logistical planning. In a rapidly changing battle environment, the ability to adjust and adapt logistical strategies is a necessity. A static logistical plan can become a liability, whereas a flexible one allows the forces to better respond to evolving situations on the ground. These lessons serve as crucial insights for future military strategists. Effective logistical planning doesn't just support military operations, it can shape them. It can turn potential weaknesses into strengths and provide a decisive edge in the theater of war. The Russo-Ukraine war is a stark reminder of how logistics can dictate the flow and outcome of military operations. It's not just about who has the most soldiers or the most advanced weaponry. It's about who can sustain their forces, maintain their momentum, and adapt quickest to the changing tides of war. As we've seen, logistics form the backbone of any military operation. The Russo-Ukraine war, which we've been discussing, serves as a prime example of how logistics can make or break a military's effectiveness in battle. Let's recap. We've established that military logistics is more than just the movement of troops and supplies. It's a complex web of planning and coordination, involving everything from the procurement of equipment to the management of supply chains and the maintenance of infrastructure. It's about ensuring that soldiers have what they need when they need it, whether that's ammunition, food, or medical supplies. In the Russo-Ukraine war, we saw how logistics played a pivotal role in both sides' strategies. The Russian military, with its well-established logistics system, was able to deploy and sustain large numbers of troops at a rapid pace. This gave them a significant advantage in the early stages of the conflict. However, as the war dragged on, the Ukrainians proved that a well-managed logistics system could be a game-changer. Despite being outmatched in terms of resources and manpower, they were able to effectively utilize their logistics to keep their forces supplied and operational. This allowed them to mount a formidable defense and eventually turn the tide of the war. This is a clear demonstration of the crucial role logistics plays in military operations. Without effective logistics, even the most powerful army can find itself hamstrung, unable to effectively deploy its forces or sustain its operations. Conversely, a well-managed logistics system can enable a smaller, less resourced military to punch above its weight, leveraging its resources for maximum effect. As we've seen, the importance of logistics in military operations cannot be overstated. It's not just about moving troops and supplies from point A to point B. It's about strategic planning, coordination, and the efficient use of resources. It's about ensuring that every soldier has what they need to do their job effectively. Remember, in the theater of war, logistics isn't just a supporting act, it's a star player.